I'm here. I spoke for 50 minutes. Something.
You want something else?
No, this is good. No, this is good. Yeah, positive. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ms. Saarika, psychologist from Bangalore. So I'm here to understand the journey of the journalist, to know and understand the whole, not just the journey of journalism, but also understanding the mental health of our journalists. And I think the younger journalists who are here to, looking forward for the journey of your new journalism, maybe you'll get the best advice and the experience to listen from you, ma'am. Firstly, I would like to thank you for the book, what you have written. I must say it's very, very emotional, very touching. I wonder how you were able to write, because you had to relive those situations while writing, right? We at home or, watching on a news channel was a totally different thing. And when you are right on the grounds, reporting those stories, what exactly your emotions were at that point of time, and were you able to, okay, first thing is, what was your emotions, while taking up such truths, right?
Yeah, thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay, so, you are taught in journalism school that you have to be objective and that if you have emotion, you should withhold it. I don't believe that this is possible in larger-than-life events. And I believe that it's okay to bring your emotion to your work. And I'll give you an example. There were several times in the reporting of this pandemic in the last 2 years, बहुत बारी मैं रोई. मैं इसलिए रोई, खुल के रोई, क्योंकि मैं जिनसे बात कर रही थी वो रो रहे थे और वो मेरा हाथ पकड़ कर रो रहे थे, मुझे मेरे कपड़े पकड़ के रो रहे थे. Some were holding on to me and weeping. And not every time, but a few times, my tears ran down my face as well. और मुझे लगा कि ये ठीक है अपनी रिपोर्ट में इंक्लूड करना, क्योंकि we should not sanitize the truth. We were going through something that we haven't understood even now. We want to pretend it didn't happen. We want to block out the memory. हम भूलना चाहते हैं, हम उसको bury करना चाहते हैं. But you know this, you're the professional expert here, कि आप जितना किसी चीज़ को दबाएंगे, the more you bury something, the more it'll eat at you. So मेरे लिए जो मेरी training है, my training is that don't lose your functionality. I don't try and hide my emotion, but I try and not lose my functionality, which means I still have to know how to construct a sentence, I still have to know how to do the interview, I still have to know how to get the right pictures, I still have to be cogent. And in the earlier session, I was saying that because I was a war reporter at a very young age, those tools came to me from that training to be in very difficult situations and not lose your operationality. But by the second year, I lost my own father to COVID. और जिस story को मैं दूसरे लोगों के को subject बना के cover करी थी, वो मेरी अपनी ज़िंदगी हो गई, which I call becoming the story. And at that point also, फिर मुझे COVID हुआ. उसके बाद भी the only way I coped was by working. I would not grieve. I would just keep working, and I was working literally like a maniac. I was writing the book that my collapse, वो collapse, और मैं when I was writing the book, I would cry like a child, like I was crying for all the 50 years I've been alive. I think I went through a kind of post-traumatic stress disorder, which was not only about losing my father, but it was about the fact that for 2 years I had only been exposed to illness and sorrow and death and loss and so much sorrow, so much sadness कि ज़िंदगी का एक the moment started feeling very fragile. Writing the book was very difficult, but it was very hectic. And I always tell young journalists, and many of you would have gone through your own little battles because you've not even had the exposure that I've been fortunate enough to have, and therefore I guess I'm a little tougher, but the toughest of us break. And it's okay to say you're not okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say मुझे रात को नींद नहीं आती. It's okay to say मुझे बुरे सपने आते हैं. It's okay to be haunted by the first time you see a body, by the first time you see a family member at a cremation ground. So I think these are lifelong wounds. And the best thing you can do is to find a way कि आप उनको carry करें, लेकिन आप उनसे paralyze ना हो जाइए. वो आपका हिस्सा रहेंगे. You have to learn to love your scars. Very अजीब सी है, but you have to learn to love your scars.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely, ma'am. Like how you just told in the previous session, you know, you used to carry, if something happens at home, you'll carry it to work.
Yeah.
If something happens at work, you carry it to home,
Yeah.
vice versa. But I think you, as you rightly told, it was a very cathartic expression, writing a book,
Yes.
right? Wherein I think time was never in favor of journalists during the whole COVID session, because you were directly, exposed to death and sadness and tears, whatnot, right? So there is a two versions here. One,
Any separation, you know, all of us juggle these emotions. You juggle them and you try and reach a certain level of optimum efficiency. In my life, I have found that I'm able to postpone emotion. So if I think of Kargil and being a war reporter, वहाँ पे थोड़ा अलग था. I was much younger. I was much more defensive about my tears. तब मुझे थोड़ा शर्म आती थी रोने में. अब मुझे नहीं, मुझे आप अभी बैठी होंगी मैं रो सकती हूँ, मुझे कोई शर्म नहीं आएगी. But when I was in my 20s, I used to be a little embarrassed about crying. Also because I had to fight to go to the war front as a woman, and there was a sense कि ये लड़की है रोएगी. But in Kargil, when I was reporting the war, I found that, you know, while I was at the war front, I was able to hold back my emotion. But once the war ended, there were weeks and weeks when I would wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares, you know. So it was a deferred reaction. Postpone हो जाता है. And I think मेरे साथ COVID में भी यही हुआ कि it was a I had to retain a certain level of functionality, and then the collapse came. And then when the collapse came, it was just a full and total collapse. And if I hadn't written the book, I think I would have collapsed very badly.
exactly, I guess that's given you a lot of strength. But
Yeah.
over this whole cathartic expression of your book, have you tried digging into your internal feelings and probably reflecting it back
Little bit.
in a more therapeutic way? Because I'm sure all these memories, you know, maybe the smell of something
Yeah.
burning, or even an ambulance siren, right? That would trigger a lot of memories, right? So your fitness of your mental health, how
Yeah.
was your approach towards your...
To be honest, by the time I finished reporting COVID, it was time to write the book. और वो book लिखते-लिखते, publish करते-करते, you know, traveling with the book, and you know, and then I think I've not dealt with many of the things that I should deal with professionally. और मैं सोचती हूँ कई बारी, you know, should I meet a therapist? Will it help me? Because I'm quite self-aware. मैं अपने आप को deconstruct करती रहती हूँ. So, in fact, a lot of my friends advised me, you know, my sister, for example, saw a grief counselor. My journalist friends told me that you must go into therapy. My friends told me, we can't help you anymore. Sometimes I would call my friends and I would just cry.
Exactly, ma'am. That's my question, that you reached out to your friends and you did hear about this therapy and all these things. I want even the younger journalists to probably understand.
No. Hey, listen,
how-
I want to say there's no embarrassment in seeking
Yes.
professional help. If that, I have not done it because I'm a very different sort of person, because I'm highly self-aware. I'm able to see what's happening to me, and even I think I need it, and I need to. So please, if you feel like you need help, seek help. Don't keep to yourself, and your friends will not be able to help you in the same way.
Perfect. Yes, ma'am. I'm sure even you would be having your own journey of experiencing these things.
Namaskar everyone, this is Divyanshi from London Top. I have a show called Baatchit, where we talk about mental
Yes, I'm
health.
aware, ma'am.
So, one fine day, my editor, Mr. Saurav Dwivedi, he came to me, Divyanshi, I want to talk to you, just tell me something. He must have seen some of my posts, because I've always been very much into mental health because of my personal experiences, just like Barkha told. Before coming to journalism as well, I used to do poetry. And every single time when I was on stage, मैं कैसी भी कविता पढ़ रही हूँ, and if it's emotional, I would just cry And some people would say because, you know, you will get criticism, drama kar rahi hai, and things like that.
वो लड़कियों के बारे में कहा जाता है, लड़कों के
हाँ, exactly. That's the bias there. So, but that's my natural self. I would do that क्योंकि मैं लिखते समय भी शायद वैसा ही फील कर रही थी और सुनाते समय शायद जब manifestation हो गया उन feelings का, I was doing that. So, before these corona years, these 2 years have been really difficult because मैं stage पर नहीं जा पाई. And I was literally asking, भगवान मेरे को stage पर जाना है वापस, and look, मिल गया. So that's some spiritual thing that I do. Khair, जो भी है. So Mr. Saurabh Dwivedi came and he asked me to make this show, जो मैं अभी continuously बना रही हूँ, and I've been continuously posting about mental health and how I identify myself as a hypersensitive person. And hypersensitivity and journalism,
it's two extremes.
They don't go hand in hand. ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता कि एक इंसान जो हर छोटी चीज से ओवरवेल्म हो जाता है, जिसे हर चीज मैं एक तस्वीर देख लूं और मेरी आंखों से आंसू हो जाएंगे. बट देन मैंने कहा हर व्यक्ति जो इस इंडस्ट्री में काम कर रहा है उसकी अलग अलग जगह है. आई थिंक आई गॉट माई शो. आई एम दिस हाइपर सेंसिटिव पर्सन. आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड इमोशंस वेल एंड probably that's why I am doing this show and I am getting this overwhelming response from people. Thank you so much for talking about it. I'm suffering from this person and this show, this episode has helped me. I've done some episodes on procrastination, toxic positivity, and the upcoming episode is on how to say no, because it happens a lot in our profession. You know, we just take in a lot. जितना हमारे बस में भी नहीं, मे बी एंड वी डोंट थिंक अबाउट कि हम किस तरह से अपने आप को अबैंडन कर देते हैं, यू नो, जस्ट सेइंग येस टू एवरीथिंग बिकॉज वी फील गिल्टी कि कहीं हमारी नौकरी ना चली जाए. दैट्स द एंड दिस इम्पोस्टर सिंड्रोम, दैट्स वेरी मच देयर, स्पेशली इन द वुमेन, यू नो, जो जर्नलिज्म में प्रेजेंट है. इवन मिशेल ओबामा सेड इन वन ऑफ द स्पीचेस शी गेव, आई स्टिल फील लाइक एन इम्पोस्टर. सो इन जर्नलिज्म ऑल्सो जब मैंने लोगों से पूछा क्या आपको ऐसा होता है, आई टेक इंटरव्यूज, इवन आई टॉक टू माई कॉलीग्स, उनसे बात करती हूँ, हाँ यार ये मेरे साथ भी होता है, ऐसा भी होता है, एंड दिस गिव्स मी सो मच कॉन्फिडेंस टू कीप फॉरवर्ड एंड कीप डूइंग दिस थिंग. एंड
Exactly, I have to say the topics what you have covered on London Top with regards to this mental health issues, it is extremely amazing because somewhere people are getting to know that it is so important that these things does happen with me and I need this break. I need to take help and I need to address these emotions. And I think your show has motivated people to, it's okay if I'm taking help, you know, there's no wrong. And all of us need that, right? Probably let's listen from Mr. Arnav. He's the best person to tell us how therapy will help us. You know, he's the MD of our Beautiful Minds. Yes, please.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, my name is Arnav. So I think, it's really lovely to hear what you're doing with Batchit and also what Barkha was mentioning. I think the key aspect is vulnerability. And we're really taught about this aspect of putting up this sort of image, you know, that everything is fine. But actually, it's not. And as Barkha as well, and, you know, clearly we're saying is like, it's okay not to be okay. Most of the times we're taught into thinking that, you know, we're meant to be happy or etc. And, you know, my journey was such where functionality got affected. Like you said, functionality is something that shouldn't. But unfortunately, because we're not doing anything, so it comes to this point where functionality gets affected because you're just living your day-to-day life in denial as to you being in a problem. So it hit me in the face when I was in 2017 and, you know, I got this massive panic attack and there was nothing I could do about it. And that was the moment I realized that, you know, I need to do something about this because now I'm not feeling functional. And I sort of started therapy back then in 2017 for 3 or 4 years and sort of overcame anxiety back in 2020. And therapy really helped in the sense that, you know, it gave you an idea of how to understand your emotions. We think we understand it, but we don't. We need someone to help us navigate into understanding those emotions. Because like you said, we've suppressed it, and you suppress it all the way back down to like your childhood. And interestingly, there's this thing called a Johari window, which is like 4 aspects. Yeah, which like, so there's hidden aspects of your own personality that you don't know. There are unknown aspects of your own personality that you don't know.
Shadow.
Shadow, yeah, so,
Carl Jung.
yeah, Carl Jung as well, yeah.
I just remembered listening to you that well before COVID, actually, many years ago, I would say about almost 8-9 years ago, I used to get acute anxiety attacks. And I didn't know what they were. So when they first started, I used to think that I'm having a heart attack. And I would tell my driver, कि मुझे emergency में ले जाओ, मुझे hospital ले जाओ. And literally I did this 2 or 3 times. And of course, then finally a doctor diagnosed and said that you have anxiety attacks. And the other thing I discovered about my panic was that it was self-perpetuating. So the places where I first got it, and I don't know if this happened to you, is where I would repeatedly get it, which was closed elevators, aeroplanes.
Same.
And I had to fly all the time, and they reached a point when I couldn't fly. And I had to fly for work all the time. And I had to really learn to not be scared of my panic.
How? How did you learn
I went to see a doctor at that time. That's what I remembered, that I went to see a doctor and he wanted to medicate me. Now, I was not wanting to take the medication, and he said, I'll give you X number of months, and you now know this is the issue. If you feel better on your own, I did yoga, but mostly it was a mental flip.
Yes.
It was that I knew कि मुझे ये होता है और मुझे कोई शर्म नहीं है, मैं स्टेज पे बैठ के बोलूँगी मुझे होता है, मैं लोगों से बोलूँगी मुझे पैनिक है. And you know what? In its acknowledgement only is the first step to healing.
True. I think,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I think the thing was like, you know, acceptance. Like, we live in this denial, right? There's this ego self in us, which just like creates this illusion. And so therapy really helped me in those moments when, like, you know, you're sitting in a room and like suddenly over here you would have some irrational fear. Like, you might just have this irrational fear about someone. Like, I would have this irrational fear that someone's poisoned my water, and then I would be thinking, should I drink it or not? But there's no rationality behind it, right? So the idea is like these psychotherapeutic tools would help you calm down. As soon as you've calmed down, then you're suddenly realizing, like, you're able to see reality again for what it is. So, yeah.
I would add to Barkha's statement, acceptance is the first, and it's a great paradox we live in, कि जब हम accept कर लेते हैं तभी change की शुरुआत हो जाती है, and this is how it goes, I think.
Perfectly. Actually, acceptance is a challenge. It's mainly because it's not a blame game, but definitely with our upbringing also. You know, it depends a lot about what kind of exposure we had and what kind of challenges we had, right? Just now when I saw the girl breaking down here, her challenge itself is to probably come to the stage and talk. You know, shadi is another thing. For here itself, okay, where did you go? You know, the questions probably she has to go back and face. The acceptance starts there, and I think this COVID gave us, all our fundamental feelings were shaken. You know, this happy, sad, anger, fear. Fear was the most dominated one, of course, and none of us, I believe, are not psychologically educated how to manage and how to deal with our emotions. Be it just these 4 fundamentals, whether it is happy, sad, or anger and fear. How many of us are willing to express our anger, express our sadness? It's as equal as, ladki ki tarah mat raho, right? Don't cry. I'm sorry, my Hindi is bad, but don't cry like a girl. Why? Why not? Crying is an expression, a pure form of expressing
Thank you for
what you're feeling.
And equally, in not encouraging boys to embrace their emotion or men to embrace their emotion, you stifle them emotionally and stunt them emotionally.
I 100% agree. I think throughout the time you're brought up thinking that you have to be strong, But what is that strong? Recently I read a quote about how strength comes from vulnerability. And
Perfect. And I believe this whole stigma, what we have to not to take help, or let's just go for a cup of tea with our friend, and that is more therapeutic. No, like how she rightly reached to a doctor to seek help. That's very important, that you reach out for a proper professional help to take care of your mental health. We are in a stage where we tell physical health is equally important to our mental health.
I would like to say one thing which just haunts me, this entire thing. the cost of help, the psychological help, not everyone can afford it. A lot of people ask me this and I just go blank. कि मैं उनको बोल देती हूँ, yeah, you seek therapy, but they're like, we are not, you know, financially हम नहीं कर सकते इसको. So Sarika, I would, if you can.
Thank you for this question. I would like to pass it to Arnav because he has a great mission for this.
Yeah, so I agree with you, and I think that, like even for me, like per session, it's like if you want a really good qualified psychologist, it's like 1,500, 2,000, and that's not affordable. In fact, the weirdest thing, I think suicide rates amongst farmers is the highest in this country, and we don't look at it as a mental health problem. And I think the idea is like there needs to be some incentive, or mental health organizations need to keep it such that they provide these services for free, try to reach out, do some more awareness and outreach programs. But there needs to be a way of giving back. So,
I mean, I think the assumption that only the wealthy have mental health issues is such a problematic structural way to understand mental health.
Definitely.
You know,
100%.
almost like it's a self-indulgence that only the rich can afford.
Exactly. ma'am.
बाकी सारी चीजें अब हो चुकी हैं, हाँ, अब mental health वाली बात कर लेते हैं. So this is this whole thing going on very much. Rural mental health के बारे में हम बिल्कुल बात नहीं करते हैं, और अभी तक, और basically that's why Hindi बातचीत, because London Top we, you know, Hindi audience है, और इसीलिए मैं चाहती हूँ कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जो हिंदी भाषी जनता है वो उन तक पहुंच पाए, और we can help solve this problem, at least उस level तक ले जाएं जहां हम शुरुआत कर सकें.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. Thank you so much for both of your time, and I think coming out from your end that it's okay to take help is a big thing for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone. Thank you audience.
So if you have any question, you can ask.
Hi.
Any questions?
Yeah, hi, this side. I'm from Tanisha from Christ University, and my question to you as a doctor is like, how, you know, you need to take medication at a point, because like, if you have diabetes, it's a chronic illness. So like, if you have BPD, or if you have ADHD, or if you have anxiety disorder, it's a chronic illness. You can regulate it through medication. There's a lot of taboo that comes in with medication you take it for mental health illnesses. So how do you break that taboo and make it more accessible in the society from a sociological perspective and not just from a like doctor perspective?
Great. Thanks so much for your question, dear, first of all. And like how you rightly told, if you have a diabetic or if you have a cold, you know where to go. And you know who is the person that you have to reach. But if you're having a panic attack, or if you're having, say that, you know, you're feeling claustrophobic, you have to understand that, yes, this is a serious issue which is coming from your brain, where it is important to address with a professional help and not just, you know, let me just sit down, calm down, drink water, I'll be fine. No. Once you understand your body language, what your brain is actually telling, please seek with a professional, not just Google it and find answers. Kindly refrain from that and never Google, and please reach out to the person who is actually giving out a genuine information. And let me tell you, meditation is a key for anything. You know, you can challenge yourself to have a best transformation of your soul with meditation. You can add a lot of value for your life. So reach out to a right source. You know, everything which comes on Insta, you know, who claims to have a lot of pages, you know, come up with, this is the tips for your mental health. Please do your research, you know, is that a right answer you're getting? Is that the right way that whatever the person is talking about? Right? You want to add with meditations?
Yeah. So I think first aid, yeah, medication, okay. So I think regarding panic attacks especially, I think nowadays in first aid training, they do provide knowledge about it as well. So I think that's a step, but everything comes down to education. And the idea is, you know, platforms like this, platforms like Divyanshi's and, you know, Barkha's, etc.
This platform is not accessible, right? Like, we are a very privileged class of society, like the colleges, if you look at, like only who can like travel, come to Jaipur and like attend this can like be here, right? So how do you break that taboo in the society and make mental health medication accessible, like fever medication or diabetes medication?
I would like to talk about the medication part here because mental health medications are definitely not accessible, and I would not wish to see that also, because you need to understand what exactly you're going through and then take the support, right? Because Dolo is, nowadays we use it for anything and everything. You go to any home, you have at least 2 strips of Dolo in your medical kit. But for mental health, you need to refer, because every chemical imbalance, whatever is being addressed, should be balanced in a professional way. It cannot be definitely accessible easily, but I think we should get more accessible in approaching the right person. That's what I can answer you the best. Yes, ma'am.
No. I just wanted to say the media does play, whether it's her program or what we do, it does play a role in destigmatizing. The mental health conversation today is very different from what it was 10 years ago. So things have changed. They just haven't changed down the chain, down to the grassroots. We don't, like we say, there's a disparity, but destigmatization kuch had tak hua hai, mujhe lagta hai.
At least people have started talking about it. At least we are taking a session here and talking about. So a lot has changed, and we are continuously trying कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग इस बारे में बात करें, तो जो ऊपर सिस्टम भी है वो भी तरह तरह की चीज़ें, जिस तरह से जैसे कोविड में हुआ, एक आपदा आ गई और हमारा पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एक तरह से बिखर गया, तो जब वो एक इस तरह से बात होती है कि yes, it is legit, it is important, तो I think system also takes notice और उसका infrastructure बनना भी तैयार होता है. It's a slow process, but it's happening, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree on that, and I think to answer, it's not a very simple, it's not a simple answer, but it really begins with education, awareness, and then unfortunately, this is the society that impacts, 1% impacts in 99. If here we're having these conversations, people like us then can take this opportunity to go and impact it further. I think, yes, media and all businesses both play a partnership in this. I think overall in education, it really begins from there, where you can really start including it in schools. And like Saarika, actually, I think she was a counselor at a school in Bangalore. So I see that schools in Bangalore also are taking this step very seriously. So that's a starting point. And I think all the way from 5-year-old. So there's no simple answer, but yes.
Thank you.